Here we go. All right. Oh, fun stuff. Gar, did you have a good week this week, man?
Yeah, it wasn't bad. How was your week, Walters?
It was okay. Yeah, I thought it went pretty well.
Pretty well, Walters. That's
Yeah.
not good enough.
Yeah. You ready to spill a whole bunch of fantasy knowledge this week?
I don't know about knowledge.
Well, you're going to be grilled, definitely.
This should be good.
I guess I don't know if knowledge is the way I want to go. I'm like, how about like how spicy or how opinionated are you feeling this week?
That's a tough question to answer, man. I don't know.
All
We'll
right.
find out.
We'll have to find out. That's a great teaser. You should do radio. You know that?
Come back after the break.
Let's see here. Oh, did you check out some of the Q&A questions in the purchase or pass categories in the Discord?
I did not.
It's well, there's only one purchase or pass right now, but it's I don't know if we're gonna get into it tonight, but definitely the pod Q&A questions I think are pretty legit.
Gotcha.
We need to get more people in this thing. I'm pretty I would say I'm full of envy and jealousy when it comes to looking at how many members you have in your Discord compared to the amount of fans that I have in my Discord.
I mean, you still only have the same number of active people. Not the same number, but you still only have like, so what is it, like 30 people at this point? I guess I don't even know the number, but only like 5 to 7 people are like regularly active. So
Yeah.
it's not that different.
We got one more round of a song, and then we're gonna get into the intro of our song.
All right, man.
I think we group me here. And here we go. Good evening, everybody. I am Walters here. This is the Victorious POD, a fantasy football podcast and live stream. We would like to thank everybody for showing up tonight and everybody who is listening on our podcast apps as well. Like I said, I am Walters, and like I said, this is the Victorious POD. We are a fantasy football podcast. We talk about general fantasy football, and we also talk about our league of record, the Victorious POD. Normally, I have Jack here with me, but he is still unavailable to join us this week. So, as you can tell up on the screen, I have my good friend Garlic Johnson. Garlic, how are we doing, man?
I'm doing excellent, Jack. Jeez, I was calling you Jack. I'm doing excellent, Walters. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. I'm all hyped up to be out here on this Friday night broadcasting to the world. I have a few announcements that I would like to make before we get into it, Gar. So just sit back and we'll just enjoy the ride here together. First off, I'd like to thank all of our donors. If you have donated, I really, really appreciate it. If you would like to donate, you can go to www.streamlabs.com/the Victorious POD. Once again, that's www.streamlabs.com/the Victorious POD. You can decide whether you want to donate once, or if you want to, you can set up monthly payments. One thing that I have changed here recently is you no longer have to have a Streamlabs account to make a donation. So if you just want to use your PayPal account, or if you want to use a credit card or whatever that would be, make it a lot easier for you guys to be able to donate. So again, thank you very much for your donations, everybody. It is very much appreciated. I'd also like to thank anybody who has supported us by contributing to our podcast. That would be people like Garlic Johnson and our guest that we had last week, Dubfire33. You guys have really helped me out in a bind, and you guys have always had my back, and so I really appreciate it. One person I would also like to say thank you to is Levi Oki. He has designed all of our artwork that you see here on the internet, and if you are looking for more of his artwork, you can reach out to him on Instagram and see samples of his work as well. He is at Levi Oki Illustration on Instagram. And as always, I'd like to thank all of our viewers and our listeners as always. Without you guys, this wouldn't be, I wouldn't say it wouldn't be possible. It'd still be possible, but we really appreciate you taking the time to listen and watch. It's a whole lot of fun being able to do this. So, the best way you can interact with us is to join our Discord. Please join our Discord. It is in the episode description below here on YouTube, and in all of our podcast episodes, you can find the link to get there. Once you're there, you will see that there are a number of things that you can do there. There's a Q&A section. There's a feedback section. There you can do memes. We have purchase or pass. We can talk regular NFL. We can talk fantasy football. There's start, sit questions, trade evaluators, fantasy team evaluators. I mean, we have everything that you would ever want to be able to discuss in a Discord when it relates to football, fantasy football, and whatever else you want. So, with that being said, join the damn Discord, please. All right. YouTube. We are here on YouTube, obviously. We have 84 subscribers, and we would like to thank every one of those subscribers to subscribing to our channel. We are so close to 100. We only need 16 more for that custom URL. We normally stream here Thursdays at 7 p.m. With everything that's been going on with myself, Jack, and now having special guests, we have to switch it up a little bit, so we appreciate your flexibility. If you're watching with us, please hit us up in the chat box. We will respond to you. We love having people in our chat. If you are looking to podcast us only, you can find us on all of the podcast apps. We are at www.anchor.fm/thevictoriouspod. That is our main podcast hub. There you can see what all the platforms that we are on. And most of all, you can leave us a voice message there as well. That is sweet. Socials are Instagram at thevictoriouspod and Twitter at victoriouspod. You can find all of our content related to our league and show on those social media platforms. All right, now that I'm done winding myself, I'd like to bring in Garlic Johnson. Garlic, It's been a busy week, man. I mean, you've been doing like this is what your third podcast this week. How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. Yeah, I mean, it's just an exciting opportunity to run the gauntlet. I think both you and Al had asked me separately, obviously without the knowledge of the other person asking me to stand in on their pod while their host was occupied for a week. So I was like, well, I might as well go down as a legend, the only person to do all three in a week. So it's exciting. I just made history, I think, or I'm
Ah,
making
yeah,
history right now, I guess.
you are definitely legendary status. That is for sure. So, what I'd like to do is I kind of want to toss out a few softball questions, just to kind of get you warmed up. Even though you obviously need no warm up since this is your third time doing it this week, but I think the viewers and the listeners want to know more about this Garlic Johnson since we have featured you here on this podcast numerous times before. So my first question for you is how did you get started in fantasy football? Did you know somebody who did it? Did you hear about it on a podcast or on TV? What was or yeah, what was it that brought you to fantasy football?
Sure, that's a good question. So I wasn't really even a football fan myself until about 2009. I kind of came along with Brett Favre. Parents had watched it, this and that, but I didn't get into it. If I had to give credit to anyone for getting me into fantasy football, it probably goes back to my Xbox gaming days. It would be a man named Adrian Ogle, also known as Bully Oli on Xbox. He would run just some free fantasy football leagues in a gaming clan I was in back in the day called High Five. So my first couple free leagues, probably the first ever fantasy football league I did was with Bully Oli, Adrian guy from Kentucky. But when I finally got in serious, my first serious year of fantasy, when I started putting money on the line, was probably 2011. So got into it for free a little bit, dabbled a bit, and then 2011 I started, and I've been going hard ever since.
So you did start in 2009 playing fantasy football. That is
Probably '09 or maybe 10. I honestly couldn't tell you. All those leagues were like, one and dones. Like I couldn't go back and find the history even if I wanted to.
okay. All right. Uh, do you know how many different championships you've earned throughout your years of playing fantasy football?
I mean, I mean, just in any league ever, it's probably got to be. I want to say 5. I want to say 5 because I've never won the league I've been in the longest. I've never won that one. I haven't won the redraft league. I've won the dynasty league. I've won a couple offshoot leagues like work leagues or friendly like other friend leagues, stuff like that. So I'm
Yeah.
gonna guess it's for sure. I can think of 3 in my mind right now. I want to say it's a couple more than that. So I'm guessing 5, but 3 for sure.
Okay. I know a couple of seasons back you had an ungodly amount of fantasy football teams in a single season. What season was it? Or I'm sorry, how many fantasy teams have you had in one season? Like, what was the most amount of fantasy teams you had in one season?
Oof. I mean, it might be this year. This year I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I have 8 this year. So 8 or 9 is probably where I max out at.
Holy cow. And
Yep.
would you say that the season has been treating you well overall? I mean, do you find your teams have more wins than losses, or are you kind of like 500 ish, or are you not
I
doing
mean, so
well?
I was pretty much in all the same leagues last year. I think I've added or subtracted a couple leagues, but last year I did god awful in fantasy overall. This year, like if you were to count all my leagues and including like the median game in our Champions League, I'd be 18-6 on the year. I only have one team that's absolutely garbage, 0-3. Otherwise, I'm either 3-0 or 2-1 in all my other leagues. So
Awesome, that's nice.
yeah.
When it comes to like fantasy football, what kind of scoring do you prefer? Are you a standard scoring guy? Are you a PPR guy? What is your flavor?
I mean, if my options are just those, I mean, I would if I had to pick like one of the main 3, I'd pick half point PPR just because I believe in rewarding players for the catches. Because catching is not the easiest football act. So I think you should get a little something, a little bang for your buck when you're making a reception in an NFL game because it's not a guarantee ever. But I mean, if I had to pick a scoring system that I like the most, it'd be the tiered PPR we're running in the Champions League, and we're also running in my Dynasty League. Whereas, depending on how long the catch is or how long the play is, that's kind of where the point per reception comes in. I think that's kind of the best of both worlds. So you don't have like a CMC type racking up, 14 receptions for, 20 yards, but that's, 14 fantasy points off receptions. It's depending on how long the plays are, is how long the reception points are. So
Nice. What kind of roster do you prefer to use when it comes to your fantasy leagues? There's like super flex, there's your standard, you have IDP leagues, you have guillotine leagues. Um, what what is it that you find that brings you the most amount of fun when constructing a roster? Like what kind of roster?
yeah, that's a good question. I think for me, honestly, the most fun, and I could probably answer this the last question too for the different scoring systems. I mean, when you're in this many leagues, I definitely prefer a variety. Like I would not want 9 or 8 fantasy leagues to be the exact same. So I mean, a guillotine league is fun. We're trying super flex in the Champions League. That's what the people voted for, and I think that's interesting so far. And I guess I like it because I've had two pretty good QBs so far. I'm undefeated only after 3 weeks, but still undefeated. So I mean, super flex has been good to me so far. But I mean, if you don't have a good second QB, that's going to be really tough for someone. So I could see how that'd be miserable as well. But I don't think there's any right or wrong answer. I have a couple leagues where there's no kickers or defense. That's nice. But I also have leagues with kickers and defense. So I mean, I'm not opposed to anything. I definitely prefer the variety. I do not want all my leagues to be the same. So I don't directly answer your question while saying all that, but yeah, I guess I don't know if I what my preferred flavor would be.
No, that's cool. I mean, I love the insight. If nobody else or if people don't know, you actually have your own podcast as well. It is called the Hidden Oaks Overdose Football Fix. You can find it on all the podcast apps. Um, how is your podcast going this year? How's it going?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Josh and I have pretty much hit our stride. We know what we're doing with our show. Our show is pretty structured, and that's not a lot of surprises, I guess. But I think it's going pretty good. We definitely have a set of loyal fans who listen every week, and then you get, kind of that second circle, that second tier of fans that they reach out or they listen maybe every couple weeks, and then they interact, and that's always fun too. So, I mean, we're just having a good time with it. 4 years in, there's nothing too crazy. This year we're not. We did video all year last year. This year we're not able to do video. So if there's one kind of bugaboo, if you will, if there's one downside to this year, would be not having the video stream up. But yeah, I mean, I think everything's going pretty good this year.
Yeah, I think it's been a great season so far. Your guys' topics are always on point, and I especially love the fave farves. That's definitely a fan favorite segment. If you guys want to check them out, make sure you guys go over to any of the podcast apps and find them at the Hidden Oaks Overdose Football Fix. They also have a Discord as well. I believe you can search for that. I can also provide a link to that Discord as well if anybody is interested in joining that one up. Let's see here. What else? Oh, you can also find them on YouTube. I believe they post. Do you post all of your episodes on YouTube as well?
Yep.
So if you like listening to a video website, you can find them on YouTube as well. Speaking of your podcast, what are some of the things that you love most about your podcast?
I mean, it's definitely like if you have to pick one thing, like obviously you want to know people are listening, and there's only one major way you're gonna know people are listening, and that's the fan interaction. So you mentioned the Faye Favre segment earlier. That's kind of a segment where we just pick a topic, and then like last week was TV dramas, so we just talked about our top four, our four favorite TV drama series. And so when you get voicemails from people, that's fun. Um, for the podcast specifically. The Discord also has been going pretty good. I think the community has been stepping up just with chatting with each other. Like there's definitely Josh and I put plenty of work into trying to generate conversations and have people come in and comment on things. But now we're getting to the point where people are just starting to start conversations with each other, or someone will start a conversation, and someone else will hit back before Josh and I get involved. So I think that's what's most exciting for me this year. It's not necessarily directly podcast related, but just seeing the community mesh a bit and chat with each other about football versus Josh and I driving every conversation.
Dude, I know exactly what you're talking about. I haven't gotten there yet with our Discord, but as soon as we do hit that, I can only I can't even imagine the amount of excitement that I'm gonna get. So, congratulations to you guys on that stuff. You guys are doing a great job. So, one last thing. What are some things that you don't necessarily look forward to when you're doing podcast related things? Like what just grinds your gears?
I mean, for me in life, I've always been like a big planner, a big structure guy. Well, I guess I shouldn't say I'm a big planner. I guess I'm more the type that when I have a plan, it's always just like disappointing when a plan goes awry. And so, it's like just last week, literally nothing bad happened. We had a great podcast. It just had to be at 8:30 because Josh had like a life event that he couldn't miss, and I was understanding of that. But it's just when plans don't go the way like you have them in your head, that's always frustrating, and that's more of a me thing than anything else. Because like I said, last week was flawless. I think we had our most live listeners actually last week, but it was just not the norm. Like our norm is always Tuesday at 5, and we couldn't hit that. So just little things like that annoy me. But it, if you're annoyed by one thing in podcasting, to me, it's got to be just cutting content because Josh and I have talked about a lot of different things. We've had a kind of a lot of adding and subtracting of segments throughout the podcast history so far. So it's just anytime you have to cut content, because I know Josh and I especially love talking about football, but we knew we would get more listeners if we just talked more general things as well. And so we pretty much cut out all of our football talk, NFL talk, at least Packers and Vikings specific. Um, and now we just talk about some general fantasy things, and we talk about fan interaction a lot, and then we talk about random stuff that more of a general, more casual fantasy player can appeal to as well, like TV dramas.
I was listening to one of my podcasts that I normally listen to. I've mentioned it here before. It's the Drop Shot podcast, and I was listening to one of their Patreon episodes, and they were talking about how they understand that their podcast is always like in a not necessarily in a state of flux, but it's always changing and it's always morphing. So when you talk about cutting content, adding content, and just trying to figure out what is the best recipe for your podcast, um, I can understand that a ton because I do the same thing as well. I'm looking at cutting what I don't think is good content. I'm trying to come up with new ideas, not only for people to be able to listen to, but ideas where we can actually get the fans involved with our podcast. That is the thing that I've wanted to do the most was just have people interact with us. So that content cutting and creating, it's a difficult balance to achieve, but once you get there, I'm sure you guys will be able to get things flowing extremely smooth. Not that you guys aren't doing that now. How is working with Josh? Do you have like do you guys grind each other's gears? I mean, you don't have to air your dirty laundry or anything, but like I'm assuming you guys for the most part are you guys generally on the same page when it comes to what you guys want to talk about and do with your podcast?
Yeah, I think Josh and I gel really well. Obviously, we play it up. We play up conflict on the podcast just because I think it makes good content. Just us going back and forth with each other. I think it's a good. We have a good chemistry, but at the same time, we have good banter as well. Good, we can take good shots at each other, at each other's opinions if we need to. But no, working with Josh is great. Josh is cool. Josh and I definitely have very different minds. Like I'm a structured guy. I'm the plan. Here's the notes. This is what I'm doing this day. This is what I'm doing that day for the show. This and that. Josh is more of a free spirit is way too dramatic, but Josh is more of a motivation is what drives him. And so sometimes he'll be motivated for the next show on a Thursday, and sometimes he'll be motivated for the next show an hour before. And it just kind of ebbs and flows with wherever his attention is. And so that can be frustrating sometimes just when I can see Josh maybe procrastinating a little bit, or at least what in my mind's procrastinating, whereas in Josh's mind, he's like, I'll get everything I need to get done before the buzzer, no problem. But I mean, I think that's with everyone, just when you have different working styles. Like, for example, our podcast is on Tuesdays, and I start the note sheet for the next show on Wednesday, the day after. And so, but Josh probably won't look at it until next week. So it's just different ways of doing things. But no, Josh is really great. I'd say we're generally on the same page. I think a lot of times I take more affirmative action just in that, like, hey Josh, I want to do this, or I'm doing this. What are your thoughts? Um, you know, or this is a change I want to make. What do you think? Versus more of a conversation. But Josh definitely has his own ideas too, and we're a good team for sure.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, you got the podcast that you guys put together is great. The way you guys interact with each other, the topics you come up with, the little joke. I mean, your guys' one-liners sometimes just crack me up in the car. I mean, and then like I said, the fan interaction content you guys have is top notch. So, hats off to you and Josh for sure for putting out a great product, and I just wish you guys nothing but the best going forward. I think that's pretty much all I wanted to do for softball questions coming your way. I didn't have this in the notes, but it was talked about a little bit before we got going here. And we are going to be going into some tater tot hot take. I don't necessarily have a tater tot hot take for this week, but I know that my buddy Garlic does. So I'm gonna have Garlic take the floor. And what is your tater tot hot take this week?
Yeah, I mean, it won't take a lot for me to discuss it. I think what more will happen will be kind of your reaction to it. And I guess I have a certain way in my mind how you're going to react to it, but I guess only time will tell. But my Tater Talk hot take, and this is you're not going to be able to find out this week. This is more so we're going to find out in like 3-4 years. But my Tater Tot hot take is that Justin Jefferson will not re-sign with the Vikings after his rookie contract. I think for everyone who's really excited about Justin Jefferson and loves how he's been lighting it up so far in his first year and 3 games, I would say, prepare to don't have the highest expectations that Justin Jefferson's going to be a career Viking. I expect Justin Jefferson to be gone after his rookie contract. So that's my tater tot hot take.
Before I get into my reaction, or do you have any reasons why, or would you like me to initially react to uh, your tater tot hot take?
No, let's just hear what you got, man.
Okay, so first off, when I'm thinking about Justin Jefferson not wanting to be here, a few things come to mind. Number one, is it the quarterback that is going to be on our team? And if Kirk Cousins is not our quarterback, that means we have either signed somebody else or we have drafted somebody else. And if we've drafted somebody else, that makes me nervous because as much as I've liked Rick Spielman's um, picks that he's had throughout the draft, especially when it comes to defense, wide receiver, linebacker, quarterback, and offensive line have been a terrible, terrible go for Rick Spielman. And I don't necessarily have any faith that Rick Spielman can find us a quarterback that will essentially be the next. It's really hard to say this, but like Patrick Mahomes, like even though he's like at the tippy top, you're still. I mean, I'm looking for someone who is going to give you the week by week competency like what Kirk Cousins is currently doing for us. And I just think that it's way easier to find somebody like that who has already established themselves and actually sign them to um, maybe more sign them to a contract that is worth more than maybe what they're worth for, but then you can go and use your draft capital to go find pieces in which that are mathematically easier to hit on than what a quarterback is, just because of like if you want to draft for defense, if you want to draft offensive line, you have more players who are on the offensive line. You have more players who play in the secondary, so it is easier to hit on those positions specifically. Next point is Justin Jefferson wants to go to a big team. Who is he going to go play for? Well, right now you got Kansas City. So Kansas City was like literally the first team that came to mind, but they have Tyreek Hill. So I'm not exactly sure where he would want to go. Let's see here. Who else? Money. Is money going to be an issue? Because if Mike Zimmer is going to remain the coach, and if he gets his defense locked down, he's not really going to want to pass the ball. He's gonna use up every ounce of Dalvin Cook and who's the backup that we have? I just
For running back, Alexander Madison.
Yeah, Alexander Madison. He's gonna soak up every ounce of talent that he has out of those guys because Zimmer loves to run the ball and play defense. So I mean, those are some of the reasons that why I could see Justin Jefferson wanting to leave. Um, does that happen? I have, I literally have no idea. I mean, this is his second year, and it's been a good one so far. And his rookie year was so amazing to watch. It is really a shame that we were not able to have fans in the stands for the 2020 football season to watch Justin Jefferson do what he does. So, okay, so what are some of your reasons why you think that Justin Jefferson is not going to be a long-term Viking?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really have a hard and fast defense for it. I just wanted to rile you up a bit, and that's just my tater talk hot take. I won't
Okay.
sit here and reason it out, unfortunately for you.
Okay. Right on. All right. I like it. We are going to be moving on to our I'm sorry, not our tater tot hot take. We are going to be moving on to our swimming upstream here, and I just want to get that back in here like that. Fine. So let's try this. All right, so this past week, I picked Derek Carr to be our swimming upstream pick. He scored us in the this is Victoria's Secret um standard scoring. So Derek Carr got us 21.24 points. On the week, he was quarterback 9. Uh, week 3, top 12 quarterbacks who have Kyler Murray, Lamar Jackson, Tom Brady, Daniel Jones, Aaron Rodgers, Kirk Cousins, Derek Carr, Patrick Mahomes, Russell Wilson, Jalen Hurts, Teddy Bridgewater, and Taylor Heineke. The season long top 12 quarterbacks, I'm not going to read through them all. I'll just read through top 5. Tom Brady, Kyler Murray, Patrick Mahomes, Kirk Cousins, and Jalen Hurts. One thing that I would like to point out that our season long top 12 quarterbacks, there are 3 of them on on that top 12 right now that are free agents, which is really surprising to me. You're missing some big names on that list, and um, I just think it's just because of some of it's still really early in the season, and you you've had some down weeks and some big name quarterbacks like for example Aaron Rodgers. You know, so moving forward this week, I don't think I did make my pick. So week 4, what we're looking at, I'm going to be selecting Taylor Heineke as my swimming upstream pick this week. He is facing Atlanta, who has the 30th ranked defense against quarterbacks, according to ESPN. Taylor Heineke, he is the number he is ranked 18th out of all quarterbacks. In the last 2 games, he has scored 20 points. In the first game, he only had like 10 points, but that's because Ryan Fitzmagic went out due to injury and he had to come in uh, as relief. So if he would have started week 1, I'm sure he'd be up the ladder a little bit further. So, but looking at this list here of free agent quarterbacks, Kirk Cousins, Derek Carr, Taylor Heineke, all of those. Sam Darnold, I think Sam Darnold's a really great play. Um, those are some of the quarterbacks that I would suggest if you are looking to stream. But this week, for the record, we are selecting Taylor Heineke. And to note, Jack has texted me and checked in, and he has said that just to compare my pick to his pick, uh, he wanted to go with Derek Carr this week. So next episode, we will compare how Taylor Heineke and Derek Carr do this week. I think also I wanted to state that um, amongst all quarterbacks this season, if you followed um, our streaming quarterbacks, you would see, according to the Victoria's Secret scoring, that your quarterback is ranked number 14th, and that is up 3 positions from last week where we sat at 17th. So we are definitely moving in the right direction. The next thing that I wanted to get into here was it's a little segment that I called garlic spices, spicy free agent quarterbacks. Now, this is a segment where I've come up with 4 different quarterbacks that are free agents, and I've already listed them. It is Kirk Cousins, it is Sam Darnold, Derek Carr, and Taylor Heineke. And we will be going over their stat lines, and we'll talk a little bit about how they've been doing this season, and we will get started with that right now. So, talking about that is not the one that I wanted. Where are my pictures? Son of a gun. Okay, hold on one second here. Switch over to here real quick. Do. I'm just gonna put on a little bit of music here for just a second while I get this figured out. This is kind of lame. All right. I know it's got to be here. And we're getting figured out here, guard. Just give me a sec. Okay, I think we got it here. So, when it comes to the when it comes to our podcast, they won't have to sit through all that. But back over here. Okay. All right. Okay, I'm at where we want to be. Okay, so getting back into it, we are talking about Garlic Spice's spicy free agent quarterbacks. So what this is going to be, we're going to be talking about 4 different quarterbacks here. We've got Kirk Cousins, Derek Carr, Sam Darnold, and Taylor Heineke. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be grading them on a spiciness based off of 4 levels of heat. The first one would be mild, which is 50% or below. Spicy, 65% or above. Blazing hot is 80% or above, and volcano is 95% above. And now what those percentages are is the likelihood for them to finish as a top 12 quarterback on the fantasy season. So let's get into it real quick. We're talking about Kirk Cousins here. Right now, Kirk Cousins is he's got a 73.9 completion percentage. He's thrown 8 TDs with 0 interceptions. Right now, he is currently looking at 72.42 fantasy points. He is position number 4 in quarterbacks. And you can see on the screen his game log. He has done 22.04, 25.26, and 25.12. Um, do you have any opinion, Garlic, on what spiciness level Kirk Cousin has for finishing as a top 12 free agent quarterback?
Yeah, so before I get into it, do I have to so there's four different quarterbacks and there's four different heat levels. Do I have to have a different heat level for each quarterback? So I have
Nope.
to think deeply about this, or does that
Nope.
not matter?
Nope. You can choose whatever you want for each of these quarterbacks. They can all have the same heat level. It doesn't matter.
Okie doke. Oh, sorry, my mic's
It's no
falling
big deal.
apart here. But no, I mean for Kirk Cousins, he's been a top 12 quarterback the past 2 years. I think our defense is probably going to continue to struggle more than our fans would want it to. So I mean, I would say it's probably I'll put volcano for Kirk. I'd say it's probably greater than 95% likely he finishes higher than a QB1 for fantasy, just because I think he'll need to be if our team's going to be where it wants to be. So I guess I'll choose volcano for Kirk because he's going to have to be QB1 in fantasy for that to happen.
Okay, the next quarterback I would agree with that as well. I'm going to go with Volcano. I believe that Kirk Cousins is essentially a lock to be a top 12 quarterback. I find it absolutely um kind of crazy that he is still sitting as a free agent on the waiver wire here, and I don't understand why. I mean, we only play one quarterback, but still, I mean, he's been so good so far this year. I just don't understand why he's not on a roster. The next one we are going to be talking about, Derek Carr. Derek Carr currently right now is the ninth best quarterback in our fantasy league on the season. He has a completion percentage of 64.7%. He has racked up 6 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. He has a fantasy point total of 69.42. His weekly game log as of right now sits at 24, 24.18, and 21.24. Um, Garlic, what heat or spiciness level would you put as Derek Carr being a top 12 quarterback by the end of the fantasy season?
Sure. So I mean, he's been kind of fringe for the past couple of years. Last year, he did end up hitting that top 10, and it definitely seems like him and Gruden only continue to grow, even if he's not Gruden's wet dream quarterback. Obviously, his first 3 games have been great and been steady, so you'll have to see the consistency so far. I mean, if you're working in a range of 24.2 to 21.2, I mean that's pretty good consistency. At least you know exactly what you're going to get, or you'd hope to, based on how consistent he's been so far. So I mean, I'm not as confident in Derek Carr hitting as Kirk Cousins, just because his track record is a little bit less than what Kirk's has been for hitting QB1 in fantasy. But I still feel pretty good about Carr. If I didn't have a lot of stud QBs in my other leagues, I'm sure I would have picked him up by now. I'll go with blazing hot, so a greater than 80% chance that Derek Carr is a QB1 this year. I mean, he's off to a great start, and he would be a must start for me every week until he falls off the wagon. So
See, that's where I just don't really. I mean, he's great for a fantasy start spot, um, but that fantasy wagon falling off the wagon, like, is this the Derek Carr? I mean, have we seen Derek Carr turn the corner? Is he now going to be that consistent quarterback? This is what is this year 3 for him? Year 4? I don't remember if it's year 3 or
Derek
4.
Carr's been in the league since 2014. This is
Okay,
year 7
okay, so he's been
or year
around.
8.
He's been around. Jeez, where has the time gone? Okay, my spiciness level on here is going to be spicy. I think there's a 65% chance or greater that he is going to remain in the top 10. There are other quarterbacks who are just outside the top 12 right now that I feel will be able to rise up. And I just think that Derek Carr is one of those ones that's going to be phased out. If you're in a super flex league, I feel like Derek Carr is going to be an amazing quarterback too. He's going to give you those consistent weeks, especially if you're doing standard scoring. 20 points from a quarterback is nothing really to scoff at. You know, you're always hoping that your quarterback is going to get you anywhere around 18, 19 points. So the fact that Derek Carr has put up over 20 points consistently the last 3 weeks is really good. So, but I just feel like he's going to be one of the ones that are definitely going to be dropping down towards the bottom of the pack. Moving on, we will take a look at our next quarterback, and that is Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold currently right now is the number 12 quarterback. He is he has a completion percentage of 68.2%. He has 3 touchdowns and 1 interception. He has a fantasy point total of 63.22. His weekly game log is 19.06, 18.9, and last week he had an amazing week at Houston, 25.26. Garlic, what do you think about Sam Darnold finishing in the top 12 of quarterbacks this year?
Yeah, I mean, this is the toughest of the three so far. I predict before the season, Josh and I did a little predictions. I picked Sam Darnold as my year-long QB stud. I think Sam Darnold's definitely going to outplay his expectations, or at least what his expectations were coming into the season, and I think that's kind of happened so far. I do think CMC being out here is definitely going to hurt Darnold a bit. As far as finishing as QB 12, obviously that's just a tough ask, and that's a tough task. I don't think Darnold's necessarily that hawk the ball, 60, 40 air yards a pass. He's definitely more of a, 5 to 15 range. And with CMC out, I feel like the field closes up for him a bit more. So I mean, I can go no higher than spicy. I do think Darnold's going to be a fine QB this year. He's not a must start for me like Kirk or Carr would be. Um, so I'm debating here between mild and spicy. I guess I'll go spicy just because I think he has that upside to hit that top 12. He definitely wouldn't be any high. He would be 11 or 12 if he was a QB1 for sure. He would not be any higher than that in my mind. He would not be top 10. But I'll give him spicy. I'd say he's got a greater than 65% chance of hitting a top 12 QB by the end of the year.
I have to agree with you. I think that spicy is sitting right in that great spot. 11, 10, 11, 12. I don't, yeah, I really find that the ceiling for this guy is right around that area. My expectation, though, is for him to really kind of hover around the 14, 15 range just because of the number of weapons he has. And, this is his first year in a new system, and maybe he'll be able to mature and grow into that system and just blow everybody's expectations out of the water. But I feel um, like I said, when some of the big hitters who are outside the top 12 right now, like in Aaron Rodgers, once they start to um, have those weeks where their name consistently starts to flow up, you'll see Sam Darnold sitting right around the 13 to 15 range. I mean, if he's on a waiver wire and you need someone to pick up, I wouldn't have any problem starting Sam Darnold in any of my leagues. In a two quarterback league, you're obviously going to want him on your team. So there is that. So I'm going to give a spicy grade level to Sam Darnold. And moving on to our fourth and final quarterback, we have the Taylor Heineke, the once he was the backup here in Minnesota at one point, wasn't he? Under Zimmer had him as a backup quarterback, I believe, didn't he?
Yeah, he was here in Minnesota in 2015 and 2016. So Zimmer was around there. Zimmer got here in 2014. So he was around, yep, for a couple years.
As of right now, Taylor Heineke is the 18th ranked quarterback in the Victoria's Secret. Uh, Respectively, he has a 69.4 completion percentage. He has 5 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, and has 51 fantasy points on the season. In week 1, he scored 10.58 points. In week 2, he scored 20.04. And in week 3, he hit 20.38 fantasy points. Gar, if you were to take Taylor Heineke, where would you rank him on the spiciness level?
Yeah, I mean, I wish there was something less than mild, like a Verde or like a ketchup or something or mayo. I think this guy's got less than a 25% chance of being a top 12 QB. I'm not a believer, even in fantasy. I'm just not a believer in Heineke. I know he has more rushing upside than a lot of quarterbacks on this list, and obviously rushing is scored more favorably for quarterbacks. But I have no faith in Heineke. I think he stinks. So I mean, on your scale, I'm picking mild for sure. But if I could add in another level with like mayo or something else, much less spicy than mild hot sauce, I would pick that.
Okay. All right. Um, so are if he was sitting on your waiver wire and you needed to pick up a quarterback, would you purchase or would you pass on him?
I mean, it would certainly be dependent on the matchup. So, like Atlanta this week, maybe New Orleans next week, probably not. Kansas City, definitely not. Green Bay, definitely not. Denver, definitely not. So, I mean, it's matchup dependent, but I would hopefully exhaust every other option before Heineke.
Okay. This is kind of a this is going to be a hot take, and I'm probably going to be just roasted on this, but I'm going to go with blazing hot. I think that Taylor Heineke, I think he's just scratching the surface. I think that with um, Ryan Fitzmagic being out for the season, that they are just going to let him just finally get a chance to prove what he had. I mean, I don't know why he never got the chance. It seems like he's been doing all right from a fantasy perspective. His legs have been helping him. Um, I think it's probably because of his schedule that I think that he's going to have a shot at being a top 12 quarterback. Realistically, I see this guy sitting right around the probably the 14 to 16 range when it comes to quarterbacks, but I do think that if things broke his way, he absolutely has a chance to be um a a top 12 quarterback. So, I'm going to go with blazing hot. That means an 80% chance. People might think I'm off my rocker, but I just feel like he has a shot, and I think he has the weapons to be able to do it. He loves throwing to Terry McLaurin. He's got I think he's got a great running back in Antonio Gibson, and he's got a fine tight end in Logan Thomas to be able to chuck that ball around. So I feel like the weapons there are good enough for him. I don't really think that the defense is that great. So the game script for Taylor Heineke is going to always be in a neutral to negative game script. So he's going to be having to throw that ball most of the time. So I just feel like there is a shot for him to be able to become rise to that quarterback one level. So those were my thoughts and takes on that. Here for everybody, here is one last look at all the quarterbacks. If you guys wanted to compare, I know that it's a little bit smaller, might be a little bit harder to read, but um, would you say that the quarterback rankings are have got or the rank of the four quarterbacks? Do you think we covered the best chance to the worst chance in this conversation? You understand what I'm saying? So like
No,
the four that we've covered, so like from Kirk Cousins, Derek Carr, Sam Darnold, Taylor Heineke, each one that we've talked about from left to right, essentially had less and less chance as each quarterback that we went on to have to be able to hit that quarterback one. If I'm making
for
sense.
for sure. No, yeah, I think so. Because Kirk was I had Kirk at Volcano, Carr at Blazing Hot, Darnold at Spicy, and Heineke at Mayo. So, yep, that's right.
At mayo, I love it. Chipotle mayo. Can we give him a little bit of spice? Can we give him some chipotle mayo? No, just no,
Mayo
not at
might
all.
be too tangy, in fact. So, I might have to come up with a different option as well.
Water, milk.
Yeah, milk. Milk is good, but like a soy or like an almond milk,
Okay. Oh, it's not even real milk. Okay.
not from a cow.
Not from a cow. All right, so we are going to be getting into our Victoria's Secret segment stuff here. First off, a few Victoria's Secret announcements. Let's see here. This week, we've had some side bets going on, and I gotta find it here. That's a yikes. I got it here. It's just going to take a quick second. So last week we had Gronk's rebirth, which was the tight end with the closest yardage to 69. That's over under. I believe. Jay won that one. I don't remember who he had, but Jay won that one. And then this week we have the Legatron side bet. That is for the longest field goal of the week. So everybody out there in our fantasy league, good luck to you on that one. We have one person who has changed their name. It is Tyler. He has changed his name to Mr. Ragor, and I believe he added an extra A. I'm not exactly sure what that's from. Tyler, if you are listening or watching, please let me know what that means because I have no idea. But that is a tribute to Jalen Rager, who is on his team. There is only one person in our league who has not changed their team name, and he will go unnamed because it's just embarrassing that he has not changed it yet. Please do us all a favor and change your team name. We are going to get into our matchup recaps, even though I have it out of order on our sheet there, Garlic. So but we'll get into our matchup recaps here real quick. That let's go and we'll switch. Okay. So looking at our first slide here, we have Alex versus Jay. Alex lost to Jay 87.34 to Jay's 104.78. You can see on Jay's side that Tom Brady went off, Alvin Kamara and James Robinson went off as well. DJ Moore and Brandon Cooks all had solid weeks as well. On Alex's side, Jalen Hurts had 20.54. Antonio Gibson had 16.4, and Adam Thielen had 11. That pretty much does it for Alex's matchup against Jay. Moving on, I'm just going to go through these real quick, Gar, and then I'll get more of your input when we get to our weekly matchups here. Go. All right, so sorry about that. All right, moving on, we have Cassie versus Ryan. Cassie lost her matchup as to Ryan. She lost 73.14 to Ryan's 91.04. On Ryan's side, Kyler Murray had 18.54. Ezekiel Elliott had 23.6. Jamar Chase had 18.5. On Cassie's side of the ball, she had DeAndre Swift go for 16.7. And that's pretty much all the notables on her matchup. Moving on, we are talking about Tyler versus Ben. Tyler lost to Ben 78.58 to Ben's 92.22. Over on Ben's side of the matchup, Matt Stafford had an amazing 29.52 points, and George Kittle had 10.1. Alexander Madison had a beastly week last week with 17.1 points, and his kicker Matt Gay got into double digits as well. On Tyler's side, Lamar Jackson had 19.28 points. Derrick Henry had 16.4. Javonte Williams had 10.2. And the Broncos defense had 14. Moving on to our next matchup, we had Jack versus Jordan. Jack lost to Jordan 94.28. No, that's not right. Oh, hold on one sec. 94.18 to 112.32. Over on Ben's side of the ball, let's see here. Melvin Gordon had 14. Justin Jefferson had 17.8. Cooper Kupp had 21.6. The Browns defense had 13. And his kicker, Brandon McManus, had 16. Over on Jack's side of the matchup, Ryan Tannehill had a nice fantasy day, 21.48. Saquon Barkley had a nice outing at 15.4. Keenan Allen had 11. Travis Kelce had 10.4. And James Conner had a nice week with 17.3. Not enough for Jack, though. Sorry, buddy. Moving on, we have Josh versus Foster here. Josh lost to Foster 88.04 to Foster's insane 156.62 in standard scoring. Josh Allen had 37.22 points. Clyde Edwards-Helaire came out of the woodwork with 14.9. Devontae Adams had 19.2. Mike Evans had 10.6. Mark Andrews had 10.9. Emmanuel Sanders had 21.4. The Saints defense had 19. And Tyler Bass had 14. Foster, what a freaking week you had, man. Over on Josh's side, Aaron Rodgers had 18.04. Najee Harris had 14.2. Kareem Hunt had a nice day, 21.5, and his kicker Daniel Carlson had 12 points. Sorry, Josh. I'm sure Foster will hand you your butt in pieces because there is no ass whooping like that. I mean, he literally beat him by almost 80 points. It's 70 points actually, so insane. Moving on, the last matchup that we were going to cover that was my matchup. Katie beat me 107.14 to 90.5. On Katie's side, she had Justin Herbert have an amazing day, 30.84 fantasy points. Aaron Jones had 15.6. Chris Carson had 14.2. DK Metcalf had 16.7. And her kicker, Justin Tucker, with that 60-yard bomb, 16 points. Over on my side, Patrick Mahomes had 22.9. Austin Eckler with 16.7. Chris Godwin with 13.6. And Greg Joseph with 11. Let's see here. What is our next slide that we have going on here? We have our standings here. Jordan is the only person in the undefeated club. He is 3-0, followed by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people. That's me, Ryan, Foster, Jay, and Katie. We are all sitting at 2-1, which means the next 5 members, Tyler, Ben, Jack, Cassie, and Josh, are all sitting at 1 and 2. And then there's Alex down there at the bottom sitting at 0 and 3. I don't think Alex has ever been at the bottom of the leaderboard, so this is a nice change. Suck it, Alex. Your team stinks this week. Or actually, it's stunk this season. Okay, so moving on here, we have our week 4 pickups. Cassie spent $45 on Chuba Hubbard. For a $100 budget is $45. Too much, not enough, or just about right there, Garlic.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's crazy. I mean, people have been. I mean, the major debate is, how fast does CMC come back? They didn't put him on IR, so you're thinking probably no more than 2 weeks out because IR only is 3 weeks these days instead of season ending. So I mean, I'm not upset with that. I mean, Cassie was what 1 and 2 on the last slide, so she needs to make a
Yeah.
move, or was she 2 and 1? Either
No,
way,
she's 1 and 2.
yeah. Either way, I coming into the season, I thought her team stunk, and so I mean, yeah, this is hopefully going to help her.
Okay. Josh, Jack, those were the other 2 people who put bids on Chuba Hubbard and did not. Oh, I'm sorry. Jordan also put $7 on Chuba Hubbard, and was unsuccessful. Jack, he spent $11 on Rashad Bateman, the Baltimore wide receiver. I think that's a pretty good ad. I'm not sure. Do you see Rashad Bateman taking receptions away from Hollywood Brown out there in uh in Baltimore?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to say. I think teams kind of got the injury flu this year. They've or the injury bug, whatever you want to call it. There's been a lot of bang ups over there so far. I think, and this is not a guarantee, but I think Sammy Watkins might lead the league, lead the team in targets, and then Hollywood Browns, right up there with him as well. So, I mean, with this team, I think it's hard unless they just bench one of those two. I mean, it would be Watkins, not Hollywood. So, I don't see it right away. I mean, I feel like if they got 2 pretty good receivers going. I don't know why they would, force Bateman in there over Watkins. So I don't see any immediate success. No.
Okay. I think Hollywood Brown right now is really his own worst enemy. If he keeps dropping balls out there, then they might see that why not work in a little bit more Rashad Bateman? But we will see. Cassie was able to add the Bengals defense last night for $5. I'm not exactly sure how that paid off. We'll have to take a look here in the next slide. Jordan also tried spending $4 on the Bengals defense. JJ
They were
Taylor,
they were not good.
the JJ Taylor was added by Jordan for $3, a New England running back. I traded for a New England running back in Dynasty this year. I am hoping I didn't accidentally shoot myself in the foot. Do you have any thoughts about New England running backs there?
I mean, about the only consistency over the last however many years was James White. James White was always that, receiving back, and he's got plenty of work running as well, but you could always count on him for that floor of receiving work. Damian Harris has been doing pretty good so far, but I mean, does anyone remember the flash in the pan, Mike Gillislee? I mean, this is who knows what Belichick's ever going to do with a running back week to week. So now that James White is out. Damian Harris would probably sit on my bench, but otherwise, I wouldn't want anyone else from this team.
Okay. Moving on, we have Hunter Renfro was also added by Jordan for $3 in Las Vegas. Do you see Hunter Renfro doing anything out there in Las Vegas, or is the tight end the Walrus Darren Waller is your only target out there?
No, I mean, obviously, you need to spread the ball around. You can't only throw it to one guy. And so, as far as targets, he's gone. Week 1 was 9, week 2 was 7, week 3 was 6. So, I mean, obviously, the targets are slightly going down, but no less than 6 targets out of 3 games. I mean, so the volume's there. And so, you just hope for, I mean, Hunter Renfro is never going to be someone you're starting willfully. So, I mean, that's just a bye week play or something. So, that's fine. I think, you hope he gets you 8 to 10 points.
Here is a spicy pickup. How about Dawson Knox, the Buffalo tight end? Jordan picked him up for $2. What are your thoughts on Dawson Knox? Is he someone that you're going to slip into your lineup this week, or is he someone that you think you're just going to stash on your bench?
I mean, so me personally, I also picked up Dawson Knox in one of my leagues this week. I've had some tight end woes in that week. I think I have over the first 3 weeks. I think I have like 5 points or less for combined all 3 weeks. The last 2 weeks I've had 0 from my tight end position. So, I mean, Dawson Knox appears to be someone who has a much higher floor this year. They seem to be getting him red zone looks and just having him be more involved in the passing game overall. So I think that Dawson Knox for me is going to be a start every week until I can find someone else. So
Okay. Tyler added Curtis Samuel, the Washington wide receiver, for $1. Um, I don't really know exactly why. I mean, you have Scary Terry and Logan Thomas as your main people out there, and then also if you're in third down situation, you have J.D. McKissick, who is taking more of the. I don't know if he's taken necessarily the third down role, but he is kind of the receiving back. Even though I feel that Antonio Gibson's doing both, but I'm just not exactly sure on what Tyler was thinking with Curtis Samuel. He just seems kind of like a non a non-factor in fantasy.
I mean, he's been a non-factor because he's been on the IR. So he's just coming back healthy this week, and so it's just what's the offense going to look like? Does Logan Thomas lose targets? Does Terry McLaurin lose targets? Do they just have more passing opportunities overall? Do they just call more pass plays? So it's just a potential upside of what Curtis Samuel could be, since we don't know, since he's been out the first 3 weeks.
All right, I have a quick question for you. Do you have your soundboard ready to go, or is it
I
easily
do not.
accessible? Damn it. Okay. All right. So we have Foster added Terrace Marshall Jr. He is a wide receiver out of Carolina. He added him for $0. I'm not exactly sure why. Do you think he's going to replace? Well, I don't know if he'd replace Robbie Anderson, since Robbie Anderson signed that pretty big deal this past offseason. But Terrace Marshall Jr., what are your thoughts on that?
I guess I don't really have any. That's just someone to have on your bench in case something happens.
All right, Foster, you'll have to let us know either in Discord or in the chat or wherever what is going on with your thoughts of Terrace Marshall. And then the last one that we have here, Jack added the Titans defense for $0. Yikes. I don't know. I mean, I guess I don't really think of the Titans being a great fantasy ad and why you would drop the Rams defense, but maybe he's onto something. What do you know something that I don't know?
It's because the Titans are playing the Jets.
Oh, duh. Yeah, I suppose. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, that's gonna do it for our free agent acquisitions. What we have coming up next here, we have our week 4 matchup previews. So we'll spend a little bit of time here talking about each of these. We won't take a lot of time because we want to be able to get through this. We're already coming up on a little over an hour here, so we're gonna get going here with our next matchup. We have Foster versus Ben. Right now, it seems that Ben is projected to be the winner of this matchup, 100.1 to Foster's 96.4. Garlic, when you're looking at both of these teams, what kind of sticks out to you, and who do you think is going to be the winner of this matchup?
I'm going with Foster for sure on Ben's Make Walters Bad Again team over here. Jonathan Taylor has underwhelmed so far, along with Calvin Ridley and George Kittle. All pretty underwhelming players so far this year. He's got the Steelers defense who's playing Green Bay. I think that's pretty rough as well. Josh Allen's playing Houston. He's got that Manuel Sanders stack. And so far, the Bills have been keep your foot on the gas pedal team and continue to blow out their opponents versus just put up, go up 21 and then, put in Mitchell Trubisky or whoever their second QB is. So, yeah, I mean, to me, this looks like all Foster all day, unless they bench his high scoring Bills players after the first half.
Yeah. The wide receiver stack for Josh Allen and Emmanuel Sanders. When you talk about quarterback wide receiver stacks, you would have thought that Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs would have been the go-to play, but Emmanuel Sanders has seems like he's been doing just fine this season so far out there in Buffalo. I'm going to pick Foster as well. I don't like Ben's flex, and looking at his bench, there's just nothing else that you can really turn to. I'm not exactly sure why he has Trevor Lawrence on his bench. Trevor Lawrence has been terrible this whole season. He had a somewhat decent outing last night. He scored 17.76 points, but honestly, if you're not going to be starting a second quarterback, if you're not planning on starting him, there's no point in having him on your bench, especially in a one quarterback redraft league. So, I mean, we just had a whole segment of quarterbacks that have been doing fantastic this year, and I feel that there's no point in holding on to Trevor Lawrence. Or I'm sorry, not Jack. Garlic, do you agree with that take or not?
I mean, you guys have 7 bench spots. I feel like that's a lot for a 12-person league, so I don't think he's really like who else would he I mean, unless it's another quarterback, who else would he pick up to take that Trevor Lawrence spot? He's just holding, hoping that Trevor Lawrence turns around and turns it up. So, I don't hate it as much as you do for sure. I'm
Okay.
more neutral, I guess.
All right. Moving on to our next matchup here, we have Ryan versus Josh. As it sits right now, Ryan is projected to win 101.2 to Josh's 96.2. Ryan currently has 20.4 points. Uh, Here, Joe Mixon scored 12.7 points last night, and Jamar Chase scored 7.7. Garlic, what are you seeing in this matchup? Who are you choosing?
I mean, out of these 2 teams, just looking at them, I mean, I definitely think I'd prefer Ryan's team because Kyler Murray. I mean, the chances are they're going to have a shootout with the Rams, so he should definitely outperform that 22 projection by a lot. Tyler Lockett has been lighting it up so far as well. Zeke and Joe Mixon, I think, have pretty safe floors. Jamar Chase has been amazing, and there's plenty of if he didn't like Miles Gaskin in the flex, I think Antonio Brown or Jalen Waddle, pretty much anyone on his bench could fill in on that flex spot as well. So Josh's team, I expect the Packers to win. And so that Rodgers Tunyon stack should be okay. But Tunyon has definitely underwhelmed this year. He was a touchdown dependent guy last year, but got a lot of them. I don't see that happening this year. So while I think the Packers will win, I don't think they'll blow out the Steelers by any means. And so I would definitely have to take Ryan over Josh, just looking at these teams right here.
How would you feel about? Uh, Peyton Barber being in Ryan's flex. I was listening to the fantasy footballers this week, and they were really high up on Peyton Barber. Did he do well last week? I should check and see what he did. Did he do
Yeah,
anything
Peyton Barber
last
had a
week?
pretty good week last week, and it looks like Peyton Barber would definitely take a lead role over Kenyon Drake if Josh Jacobs were to be out again this week. So, I mean, obviously, it comes down to whether or not Jacobs plays. But if Jacobs is out, I think Peyton Barber would probably be the guy I go to for the flex for sure.
Hold on one sec. I'm taking a look here at. I just gotta get him. Here we go. Peyton Barber. What did he do? Last week, he scored 20.02 points. He had 111 yards. He had a touchdown, 3 receptions for 31. The week before, he had 3.2 fantasy points, and he did absolutely nothing in week 1. So that is a huge difference in fantasy points and in usage. I've heard that Gruden definitely wants to get Peyton Barber more involved. Um, I would be scared to do it, but I mean, when you're looking at some of the other options that he has for his flex spot, Antonio Brown or Peyton Barber, maybe Christian Kirk. I mean, how has Christian Kirk done this year?
I mean,
Let's
if Josh Jacobs doesn't play, I think it's Peyton Barber hands down. You'd be foolish to not to.
okay, okay. We'll go with that.
One
Look,
man's opinion.
yeah, looking at Josh's team over here. Um, would you rather play Josh Jacobs in your flex or Michael Pittman?
I mean, if Josh Jacobs plays, I'd much rather play Josh Jacobs in a standard scoring league. Otherwise, I mean, I hate the rest of his options. It looks like he has an empty bench spot. It looks like Josh has given up. Um, I don't know. I don't like Michael Pittman very much this year at all. So I guess I would pick Jacobs between the two of them.
He has done okay. The first week was he didn't do that great, but in week 2 he had 12.3 fantasy points. Last week he had 7.3 fantasy points. To note, in the last 2 games he has seen 12 targets each game. He has, let's see here, in the second week he had 123 receiving yards, and in the third week he had 68 receiving yards. His reception total isn't bad either. He had in week 2 he went 8 receptions, like I said, on 12 targets, and then 6 receptions on 12 targets. Miami's defense, I don't think is anything really to scoff at. So I would be okay with actually putting in Pittman this year or this week over Josh Jacobs. That's just how I would feel about it though. So moving on, we can take a look at our next matchup here. We should have right? Okay, yep. We've got Golden Grams Jay going up against Katie. Jay right now is projected 98.7 points to Katie's 102.4. As of right now, Jay has 19.6 points, and he has those points out of James Robinson, who played last night. Garlic, what do you see in this matchup, and who are you picking?
I mean, I think of all the matchups I've seen, this one has been the hardest to choose so far. So if you have a matchup of the week or a game of the week or whatever, this is it. At least of what I've seen so far. I mean, I think most of the positions are pretty adequately matched. I mean, Mike Williams has obviously been performing well for Katie on the right there. Hawkinson got shut down real bad against Baltimore last week, so it's a question of can they find creative ways to get Hawkinson the ball, or will Chicago just do the same thing? Um, yeah, this one's tough. I mean, if I had to give an edge, I have to give it to Jay here, just because I think there's some names I appreciate more on the left, but I think this might be the closest matchup of the week. But I'm picking Jay.
I am gonna go Katie on this matchup. Aaron Jones, Chris Carson, DK Metcalf, Mike Williams. Yikes. That is a foursome that I definitely got my ass kicked with last week, and I would fully expect them to do the same thing as well. Green Bay is facing a Pittsburgh team that's not very good. Chris Carson has always been fantastic. DK Metcalf, I think he was kind of slow to go. I could be wrong, but last week he had a really great week as well. Um, Mike Williams, he exploded last week. We'll see if he can repeat. TJ Hawkinson, I mean, he's really the only receiver out there. So, I mean, I really like Katie's team this week. Looking over at Jay's team, I mean, Jay's team is really good as well. It's hard to vote against him, but the only thing I can see going wrong for Katie is Tom Brady just going absolutely hamburger this week against New England. So, but I do see Katie being able to win this matchup. We'll just see exactly how it goes. Moving on to our next matchup here, we have Alex versus Jack. Alex is projected 94.6 to Jack's 91.9. What do you see in this matchup, and who are you predicting to win?
I mean, this one's tough too. This one's a little closer. I mean, ugh. I don't suspect Jalen Hurts to have a very good week against Kansas City. Antonio Gibson has been underwhelming. Stefan has been held in check. He hasn't been terrible, but his ceiling is probably about 15 just because I think the defenses have given him a lot of looks. Robert Woods has also very much underwhelmed. Kyle Pitts without PPR is going to struggle for you as well. I mean, just based on how negatively I feel about Alex's team on the left here, I feel like I have to go with I forget who you said it was, but whoever's on the right.
That's Jack.
Um, sorry, you said it's Jack.
Yeah, it's Jack.
I mean, I just see a much safer floor. It seems like Saquon is back. Mike Davis is losing shares to Cordell, but I think he'll be fine. Tannehill should be able to perform well against the Jets, even without his top two receivers in the game. And Kelsey's an obvious stud. So I don't know if I like James Conner in the flex. I think I would maybe take a flyer on Fuller and see what Fuller and Brissett can put together, or maybe even put Cordell in my flex. But I think I'll take Jack over Allen this one.
I'm going to take Al in this matchup, and I think Al should take Robert Woods out of the lineup, put Adam Thielen into his wide receiver spot, and looking at his bench players, I think I'd almost I'd almost want to play like Naheem Hines over Robert Woods. What is your thoughts on playing Naheem Hines over Robert Woods? Do you like that? Do you not like that?
I mean, between the two of them, Woods certainly has the higher ceiling, and so I mean, when Al's in a position, his back's already kind of against the wall, 0-3. I mean, if he's trying to squeak out a win, maybe because it looks like this is probably, I think, the two lowest projected scores we've seen so far this week, or
Mhm.
yeah, this week
Yeah.
throughout the matchup. So, I mean, I might throw a flyer on Quintus Cephas instead myself. I mean, only had one good week, but I mean, someone has to catch the ball over there. If Hawk's going to be triple covered every game or
Yep.
every play, so I mean. I'm fine with riding with Woods because in the end he does have the higher ceiling, even if Matt Stafford definitely prefers Cooper Cup this year. But Robert Woods also has the lowest floor, so I don't know.
With
It's
Jonathan
tough.
Jonathan Taylor struggling last week, you saw Naheem Hines have a pretty decent fantasy output. He had 13.9 points. He had 6 carries on 25 yards. He got a rushing touchdown, and then he also had 5 receptions for 54 yards. He's not gonna. I mean, he's not flashy, but if especially if Taylor is struggling, Hines would be somebody that I might want to turn to. So there's always that thought. You picked Jack, I picked Al. We are going to be moving on to our next matchup here, which is Jordan versus Tyler. Right now, you have Tyler, who is on the right hand side. He is out projected right now. Jordan 100.8 to 93.2. Currently, Tyler has 14.2 points. He's had Tyler Boyd and Marvin Jones Jr. go last night for a combined total of 14.2 points. Garlic, what do you see in this matchup, and who are you going to pick?
I guess I feel like oof. This I mean I'm definitely leaning Jordan just because I mean, Denver's defense is allegedly good. I definitely don't think Denver is 3-0 good, but they just happen to be 3-0. Derrick Henry against the Jets. I mean, that should be a real good day for Henry, but there's no PPR here. I think it'll be more of a control the clock game versus run the ball down their throat with a bunch of carries. I guess I'm saying I don't think the volume will be as high as others think it will. This is a toughie though. I think I'll end up going Jordan. It's unfortunate that he lost CMC. But I think Devin Singletary in your starting lineup scares me, but it's against Houston, so it should be okay. Yeah, Cooper Cup should definitely put up like 28 though, so I'll have to go with Jordan.
Okay. Yikes. Oh man, I'm looking back and forth at this. Jordan's taking a flyer on Dawson Knox. Oh man, and then Devin Singletary, that scares the heck out of me. And then like here's one thing that I'm not exactly sure of. Like, so we've seen Kirk Cousins have 3 amazing weeks, and now and would you say that the defenses that we've played in the first 3 weeks are good? Like, when you look at Cleveland's defense, would you say that they are the highest ranked defense that the Vikings have played against this season?
I mean, they're probably the most well-rounded defense of the four so far. Yeah,
Okay.
Arizona probably in second.
So that just makes me wonder if Kirk Cousins passing is going to take a hit this week, which means that the receiving for Justin Jefferson might not be there. I would say that he's good to score a touchdown, but I don't know if you're going to see an explosion out of him. So it just makes me have a little bit of pause. I'm going to take Tyler just because of the matchups this week. I know that Marvin Jones Jr. didn't really do Tyler any favors, but I'm still really liking Derrick Henry. Daryl Henderson's coming back. He should have a good game. There's Darren Waller, Javante Williams, the Broncos defense, and then I don't know if I mentioned Lamar Jackson, but I'm just liking
I mean,
Tyler's
do you do
matchup.
you do you really think the Broncos defense against the Baltimore offense is a good matchup?
Um, I think so. They might be able to the Baltimore Ravens might be able to expose them, but I still feel like they'll be able to keep them in check enough. Um, it's we'll see. I mean, this is really going to be the toughest test for the Broncos that this season so far. They are 3-0 if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct? Are the
Yeah,
Broncos 3-0?
but
Yeah.
yeah, by beating three really bad teams. Yep.
Okay. So yeah, so I mean, we'll see. I mean, I think they well, I don't we'll have to see, but I'm going to say yes. I think they're going to be able to keep them in check enough. I'm going to predict an upset. I'll just say right now, the Broncos are going to beat Baltimore, so you can clip it and ship it right there. So, um I don't think I have anything else that I want to talk about with this matchup, so we will move on to what I believe is going to be our final matchup. It is Cassie versus myself. Cassie is, as of right now, is projected 90.3 points to 94.2 on my side. Cassie last night played the Bengals defense, which gave her 1 point. So she is currently sitting at 1 point, and I haven't had any players go yet. Looking at this last matchup here, Garlic, what do you see and who are you going to pick?
I mean, Gronk's list is doubtful, so that's going to be a woof for you. You're going to have to put in Gasecki or pick up someone else, assuming Gronk doesn't play. Yeah, I mean, it's Cassie's team looks fine. Like Swift and Dak and Chuba should have a good week. Terry should be fine. Logan Thomas has not been super great, not been super terrible either. OBJ against Minnesota, that should be a fine matchup because Patrick Peterson doesn't, follow around the number one receiver. He just stays on his side of the field. So if they just put OBJ on the offensive right side, he'll be up against Breland, who has been doo doo so far this year. So and Dalvin Cook's on the bench there as well, so that could easily take over the flex spot if Dalvin does indeed play. I mean, I think Chubb and Eckler have fine floors for you. Debo has done great this year. I've just never liked Deontay Johnson, so I won't give you any praise for him. Not that he's done anything terrible, but God, I don't want to pick you or Cassie if I'm being honest. But if I had to pick one, I guess I'll pick Cassie here.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to be picking myself because, well, I'm in love with my team. I mean, Looking at it, if you were to put Dalvin Cook in, who would you be sitting? Would you be sitting OBJ? Would you be sitting Chuba? What would you be doing?
I'd probably move OBJ up into Hollywood Brown's spot and then put Chuba in the flex and then Dalvin in the other running back spot.
That's kind of what I was thinking as well. Um, just because Marquise, I mean, he has the potential to go off. I mean, we've seen so many times um, Lamar Jackson trying to chuck the ball downfield for Marquise Brown to either to move the sticks or to go for a long bomb touchdown. But he's had the drops this year, or they just haven't connected. So there is a ton of potential with Marquise Brown, which is why I love him so much. But when it comes to putting in your consistent players, I would say that that is the correct assessment in putting Marquise Brown on your bench. On my side, it is a real downer that I'm not going to be able to play Gronk since he is going to most likely, like you said, he is doubtful, most likely not going to be playing. I wanted him to be able to go back to Gillette Stadium there in Foxborough and just light it up with Tom Brady. So yes, I will most likely be starting Mike Gesicki this week in at my tight end. Hopefully he can have some magic like he did last week. So it's been real hit and miss with Mike Gesicki. It scares me to start him, but you got to do what you got to do. So with that being said, I am picking myself to win against Cassie. It most likely will be a nail biter, though. So that is gonna do it for all of our matchups. That was a lot of fun, Gar. I really appreciate you doing that. I don't know if you know or not, but I dedicated this episode to you since it is October, and pumpkin spice is apparently a thing. If you didn't know, but I'm going to dub it garlic spice because pumpkin spice can shove it and garlic spice is way better. Or I could have figured that you are the sixth and most underrated member of the Spice Girls, garlic spice. I mean, which one would you choose?
I mean, if I have to choose between those two, I'd definitely like to be a member of the Spice Girls for sure.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of us would be. So, I just want to say thank you so much, Gar. One last thing that I wanted to ask you real quick before we get going. No, we're not in 3 leagues together. In our 2 leagues together, why don't you tell the listeners how you did in the Champions branch out last week? How did you do?
I mean, I don't perfectly know off the top of my head. I know I won. I know I
Okay.
beat my opponent and I won the median game as well. So I got 2 wins.
Okay.
I'm 6-0. I think I beat my buddy Davy Jones, the guy who ended up auto drafting.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think he only fell to 5-1. So or 4-2. Either
Okay.
way, yeah, I
Yeah.
won.
He's
That's all I
doing
know.
nice. All right. And how did you do in our Dynasty League this past week?
Yeah, deflate these balls has been a little underwhelming so far this year. I do believe I'm 2-1 though. I'm pretty sure I just picked up a dub over whoever I played last week, but it was a low scoring affair. It's probably a win I shouldn't have had. But you know what? I'm probably gonna go. I'm gonna look it up just so I make sure I'm not wrong. Yeah, I got the dub over Flack, and I went to 2-1. So yeah, I'm not upset about it. My team, I think, could perform better, but we'll take a dub as a dub.
Awesome. Last week, Jack, he in the Champions branch out, the Superflex League, he beat Jordan. Uh, Jack currently is sitting at 5-1. In Dynasty, he lost. I don't know who he played. Oh, he played Say It Ain't Souson. He played him. Jack has 1 win and 2 losses in Dynasty, and then Jack also lost to Jordan. Yeah, he played Jordan. He lost to him last week as in Victoria's Secret. So Jack is sitting at 1-2 in the Victoria's Secret. Me, I won in our Champions branch out. I am currently sitting 4-2 in Champions branch out. That's the Superflex. I lost to Alex. I am 0-2 against Alex this year so far. So I lost in Dynasty. I am currently 1-2 in Dynasty. And I also lost to Katie this past week in Victoria's Secret. So I am 2-1 in Victoria's Secret. So I went 1-3 this past week. Not that great, but I'm hoping this week we can change that all around. That pretty much is gonna do it for our show, Garlic. I know that I'm facing you this week and deflate these balls, so bad luck this week to you. I hope you lose. I don't think I necessarily have anything else. Would you like to plug anything before we take off?
No, I mean you've done a plenty good job of stroking me this whole podcast, so that's nice. Thank you, Walters, for that. Obviously, we got the Discord going, but I'm not going to sit here and try and poach your league members into our Discord, um, because I mean you're trying to build your own thing, so I won't sit there and distract them with a different one. About the only other thing I want to say is I wrote down kind of after we talked, we were in the beginning, we were talking about like you asked me, what's it like working with Josh? And I definitely wanted to make sure I gave, because I don't, thinking back at that moment, I didn't feel like I gave Josh enough credit. Josh definitely can do things that I can't do. And so Josh is a very talented individual, I think, on the mic. He's just way more creative than me. Like I'm not someone you can point to and be like, hey, Garlic, be funny right now. That's
Yeah.
not something I can do, but Josh would
Nope.
almost always succeed in such a situation. So there's definitely, in case I didn't convey it enough earlier, this podcast or our podcast does not exist without Josh. I just want to make sure I plugged Josh, I guess, and make sure I gave him enough credit for, the finished product we put out every week.
Josh always finds I don't know how he does it. He just has that just that brain there. You can just think of something on the fly and just say it, and it's absurd, it's funny, and it's topical. I don't get it. I think Al does a pretty good job with that as well. So I mean, I wish I definitely had uh that type of personality where I can just think on my feet. I mean, you guys have seen it when when things go awry and I'm not able to think on my feet. I struggle. So yeah, Josh does a great job. So make sure to go check out Garlic and Josh on the Hidden Oaks Overdose Football Fix. You can find them on all of the podcast platforms and here on YouTube as well. Wrapping up here, I just want to say thank you everybody for watching and listening. Make sure that you find us on YouTube. You follow us on YouTube. We need those 100 subscribers. Please go to our website, our podcast website, www.anchor.fm/The Victorious POD to leave us a voice message. Join our Discord, please. We have so many different things that we can talk about. We want to interact with our fan base. We want to interact with the listeners. We have content that we just want to share with you guys. So please find us on Discord. And don't forget to donate. We appreciate all of our donors. Without you guys, the things that we have in our vision for the future would not be possible without you guys. So thank you so much for listening and donating as well. We really do appreciate it very much. That's going to do it for me. That's going to do it for Gar. Gar, have a great night. Thank you so much for helping us out. And we hope to see you guys again here next week on The Victorious POD. Have a great night, everybody.
Let the record show I have the Cowboys in the pick'em.
Done. Well, that was pretty sweet, huh?
Yeah. It's always nice to talk football. I mean, I talked about it in the show, but Josh and I have kind of cut down on content for time and for more generalized content. So it's always nice to talk about it when you think you've got a good opinion.
Yeah, that was fun, dude. I really wanted to deep dive this week on football, and I'm really hoping that I was able to do that.
You will what?
I wanted to deep dive into football, so I just thought I was able to do that.